Hello YouTube and welcome to my channel. My name is Zoe Jones and today I've come to the river to talk about shame. Shame is something I've been experiencing basically my whole life. Through diving into this conversation and this topic myself, I realized how much this conversation is needed right now in the world and how relevant it is in all of our lives. And I just hope to share my thoughts with you and I hope you listen. So let's get right into it. So first, what is shame? Shame is falling short of the own standards we set for ourselves. It's honestly an extremely painful feeling. And oftentimes how it shows up is never feeling good enough and the inner critic in our head constantly belittling us. I know that I've had a really hard relationship with myself and I fucking used to hate myself. I constantly pitied myself in a way or felt like no matter what I was doing, even if I did something good or had a win or a success, I I couldn't even feel proud of myself or like I did anything good because it almost felt like I never deserved anything. I would I was really jealous. I would look around at everyone else around me and I felt like they were all living these happy, fulfilling lives where they got to experience joy, and I felt like my joy was robbed from me. I'm tired of going around looking for answers to questions that I already know. Shame is a big monster and it really takes so many different forms. And because we've all had our own nuanced individual experiences with shame, it's going to look different for every single person out there. Some of the extremely common symptoms of shame are anxiety, depression, perfectionism is a huge one, social isolation, or a large fear of a fear of being yourself, constantly thinking what other people are thinking about you, people pleasing, addiction issues are all super common when it comes to shame. So, these issues that are derived from shame are one of the most important issues in today's society and something extremely common for us. So, where do we get these standards in the first place? If the definition of shame is falling short of our own standards, why is it so painful? Why do we tie our identity to this experience so tightly? Where did these standards come from, etc.? So that's what I'm going to explain. I think in today's society, we have so many standards for ourselves. In modern society, you can't just be yourself. You have to be successful, rich, attractive. You have to have tons of skills and hobbies. You know, you have to have a bunch of friends. You have to have a car and, all these things that is needed to be cool or a good person or the ideal version of yourself in, 2025. And that gap of where we are and where we're told we're supposed to be can be one of the more painful feelings, I think. You know, like I think for such a long time we've been told over and over again what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, and what a person is supposed to look like. Something that I really wanted to talk about in the conversation of shame is socialization. Socialization, the definition, is it's a process where we basically train children to act and behave a certain way that society deems acceptable. I think the actual definition of socialization is when we take on the cultural values of a society. And cultural values is good and bad, like what a society deems acceptable and unacceptable. And, people have their own opinions about this, and it's a conversation that's constantly being had and constantly being rewrit. Like, this is cool, but this isn't, right? But as children, we have no concept of this and we don't care about this. Children are children. And if you've been around children, if you have children of your own, siblings, or, they have that unique spark about them where they don't care what's right or wrong, or what other people are thinking of them, or what they're told they should do. They follow their natural intuition and what naturally feels good to them. And it's sad because we actually tell children to stop that, and that's wrong. We constantly tell them over and over and over again that don't do this instead. Or what you're doing is wrong, don't do that right now, this is not the time or place, we're doing this right now, not that. And I want to give a few examples of that. Imagine you're in a grocery store and you see a child screaming, having a tantrum. More times than not, that child is going to be told to stop, that they're embarrassing their parents, that this is not the time or place and they must shut up, stop crying. And we don't really bat an eye at this, right? Like, it's okay to tell your child to do this because in society, we have cultural norms when it comes to being in public. But what we don't realize is that child has such a high chance of growing up and not trusting their own feelings and feeling like their feelings don't matter. This is the real repercussions. This is the real issue with socialization. And this is how it leads to shame. Because when you're told to stop doing shit over and over and over again, the only logical answer is to think that something's wrong with you. Like, damn, I keep doing shit that's wrong. I keep messing up. My parents keep telling me that I need to stop doing what I'm doing. Like, there must be something wrong with me. And what I didn't mention in this clip is actually how it's less painful to think that there's something wrong with us. By intellectualizing our experience and putting fault on ourselves, we don't have to face the truth that our parents actually did not unconditionally love us through our mistakes, love us without exception, love us through our hardest, darkest moments. In society, we're loved under certain conditions, under certain circumstances. If you do good, if you do X, Y, and Z, then you are rewarded with my love, which is so, so painful. We just want to be loved for who we are at our cores, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you. Your experience was extremely difficult. In my opinion, it's the reason why so many of us have such a hard time even remembering our childhoods. The amount of pain and despair that we put children through and expect them to self-regulate is disgusting. You could go on, and we've all had our own individual experiences with, socialization and shame, and it can be more or less extreme depending on your upbringing. So in this video, I say over and over that socialization is telling a child that they're doing something wrong. And the reason why I'm saying this is because that's the message that children take away from their experiences, but it's not necessarily someone like verbally saying, you're doing this wrong. Like, it can look like so many different vast things to super subtle tone shifts, subtle expressions, like just the look, to the most like extreme, dramatic, almost like abuse and trauma. And, either way, they're going to be taking away the same conclusion that there's something wrong with them. So that's why I'm saying they're wrong over and over, but it doesn't have to be that they're doing something wrong, You can condition a child through praise, through putting a certain focus on different areas like arts, like sports or academics, like, you know, and we have all been conditioned. Therefore, we have all been traumatized. That's really the message I'm trying to explain. We all have trauma. I think it's a misconception that people think that they don't have any trauma and lived perfect lives, and I just think that's bullshit. Like, I don't care if you were born with a silver spoon on your tongue, with a bunch of money. I don't care if your parents love you unconditionally, you know, if you had that experience. Because even if you had perfect parents, society is still going to tell you and is still going to traumatize you. So, in this next part of the video, I wanted to be vulnerable and share just a little sliver of my personal experience growing up. At least for me, I know I can relate to people a lot more when I've heard their true feelings and their true experiences. And I think it's something that I want more people to start doing. We've become so scared of vulnerability, but I think it's one of the most powerful things you can do is be vulnerable. So I just wanted to come clear up some things, and I hope you're enjoying the video. So I want to talk about my own personal experience being very painfully socialized in a very fucking strange way in elementary school. I am just a very naturally curious person. I'm always going to want to know the why. I'm always going to want to know the research or the reason behind why things are the way they are. And I think my teachers saw that as me challenging their authority and their knowledge. You know, I was asking simple questions like, why are we doing math? Because we have to. But why? Why do we have to? And they would just get angry at me. They would get angry at me. Like I said, they would take my questions as a challenge, and they rose to the occasion of that challenge by actively trying to humiliate me in front of my peers. I have no less brain power than any other of my peers at the time. I had no learning disabilities or reason why they were pulling me out of every class, but routinely on the clock during math and reading or writing, they would pull me out. A lady would come to the door and say, "I'm here for Zoe," and pull me out. And if I didn't get pulled out of class that day, I was humiliated because I didn't understand the material. While all my other peers were learning, you know, grade level stuff, they were pulling me out and teaching me way simpler things, way dumber things than the rest of the students, but still expected me to test the same and to understand the material in the other classes the same. And it's something kind of small, right? Like, you don't have to really do much for a child to start to develop these ways of thinking that there's something fucking wrong with them. And I remember thinking, wow, there must be something horribly wrong with me. There must be something broken about me, something that makes me different, because I look around and everyone else seems to have it covered. They have it figured out. You know, they aren't breaking down crying every day. They're able to function in the little bubble that we're told we're supposed to function in, the mold that we're all supposed to fit into. But I can't fucking do it, and I feel crazy. But it's so painful for everyone to tell me that I'm constantly doing the wrong shit, that I just have to be perfect. From this moment on, I'm going to push myself, I'm going to twist myself, I'm going to bully myself, I'm going to force myself to be good. Because if I'm good, they can't hurt me. Because if I'm good, then, oh, there's a bumblebee. You know, like, if I'm good, if I'm the perfect version of myself, if I never make a mistake ever again, they can't hurt me anymore. So I'm just gonna bully myself. I'm just going to take on the role of telling myself I'm doing everything wrong myself. They don't need to tell me what's wrong. I know what's wrong. I know there's something wrong with me, and I'm going to punish myself for it. This is shame. This is the natural conclusion when children are told everything that they're doing is wrong. And we've all experienced this to some degree. I believe this in my core and in my soul. And to even begin to describe the amount of side effects and the amount of consequences this frame of thinking creates, it would be like a 3-hour-long video. But trauma can be anything. Trauma is anything that made you feel that type of way. And children have huge feelings. If you have been around children, you know they fall on the ground. They're not even hurt. They didn't even hurt themselves, but they're crying. You know, they feel these huge emotions. You tell the child something simple, huge emotions, right? Because they don't think, they feel. And as we grow up, we're conditioned not to feel our emotions. Anyways, my mom was struggling at this time. I was struggling at this time, and it broke me. All of that beautiful curiosity, intuition, my creativity, my vitality. By the time I got out of elementary school, I had no idea who I was. I was a shell of myself. I'll just tell you this one time. So she was really big about writing. We were writing in her class. And so she gave us a new writing technique and then gave us a writing prompt. So, like the smart little girl I was trying to use the new writing technique in the writing prompt she gave me. And in front of the entire class, she was like, "Zoe, what is this? What are you writing? This makes no sense. This is your worst writing of the whole year. Like, I don't understand what you were even talking about or what you were thinking. Like, this is horrible." And I was like, "But it's the writing technique you just told me to do." She didn't respond to me. She told me to go sit down. And then there was this other cute little blonde girl who also turned in her assignment and did the same thing I did. Turned in the writing prompt with the writing technique that Miss Mills taught us. And she praised this little girl in front of the entire class like, "Guys, this is a star student right here. You see, she went out of her way using her big brain to think of using the new writing technique in this writing prompt. What a genius, what a star." I don't remember the words clearly what she was saying, but I basically went through this on a daily basis. And so to even describe the amount of shame I felt, like, I basically thought I was a hot piece of piling shit, that I was unfunny, unlovable, that no one actually liked me, that people were just pretending to enjoy my presence, that I was very dumb, unintelligent, that I had no idea what I don't know. I was left a shell of myself and so broken. And so that was my experience. I guess with socialization tied into trauma, tied into abuse, tied into neglect. Growing up, there was a lot of different factors involved for me. But that was my version of socialization. And so your version might not be as extreme. And I'm not trying to play like a battle of trauma game. Trust me. I hate that shit. Trauma can look like anything. Trauma can look like falling and hitting your knee and crying about it, and you never processed that emotion, that emotional experience within you. Trauma can literally be anything. It can be an adult raising their voice at you. It can be, emotional neglect, which is another huge issue that I will probably make a video on at another point in time. But that inner critic in your head, that's where it comes from. That voice telling you you're not good enough. That voice in you constantly telling you need to do more, that you have to be perfect. There's so many different behavioral things that can come out of shame, but I think the biggest one is the inner critic. And the strive to be good. Because if you're good, you're loved. If you're good, you get your needs met. If you're good, you're respected and valued by your peers. But if you're bad, or make a mistake, or do something that's not to the standard that has been set for you, it literally feels like death. It feels like you basically have been shunned by the kingdom and you've been banished to the fucking woods. That's what it really feels like. And it feels like that way when you're a kid, and it feels like that way when you're an adult. And something about humans, we're willing to sacrifice a lot to be good, or to be perceived in an ideal light by others, for other people to think that we're good. We're willing to sacrifice a lot and do a lot of horrible, nasty shit to be socially accepted. And I look around at the world and the horrible things happening, the horrible CEOs, the oil companies that are willing to have genocides happen for their own money, for their own greed. I think about those people, and I think about how shame has a play in their story, in their conversation. Would these greedy son of a fucking bitches, like horrible millionaires, feel the need to take and take and take if they had a healthy sense of identity? If they felt like they didn't have to compensate so heavily for the shame that they felt? Everything horrible in the world, I feel like has to do with shame in some degree. I'm not saying it's like the core wound that makes every evil person be evil, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. That's all I have to say. That evil girl that bullied you in middle school, wish she would have bullied you if she wasn't told every day that something about her was fucking wrong, or her nasty mom didn't tell her she had to be X, Y, and Z, and she's unlovable if she can't do X, Y, and Z. In the world, I think we all have experienced horrible people, nasty people, manipulative people, people that don't want to see you succeed, that don't have your best interests in mind. And I think instead of condemning these people and thinking that they're just evil and nasty, to understand that we all have these wounds and we all express them differently. You may be a people pleaser and you may be constantly walking on eggshells, constantly scared of how other people are perceiving you. But the nasty fucking narcissist bitch who has pretty much the opposite values and the opposite attitude you do, you guys share the same wound deep down, I think that's where the conversation should be going, is towards empathy, towards how can we relate to each other? Because it's not like one person is born more evil than another. It's not like one person is born with more love put into them than another. And you can debate me and say I'm wrong, but we are all humans. We are all equal, to some fucking degree. I don't care if you were born with a golden spoon in your mouth and $1 million home. You are still the same human. You're still the same percentage of human that I am. And so wherever we end up in life, instead of just trashing on each other and not seeing the middle ground in each other, we can understand that we have all been through the same struggles. We have all been through trauma. Socialization is trauma, is deep, profound trauma. And it's not a battle of what I did and what she did and what she said. No, we have to understand each other, When someone meets you with nastiness, meet them with trying to understand them, because 100% of the time, these people are not coming from a nasty vagina and they were just born in Nastyville and that's just who they are as a person. They were hurt. Like I was hurt. Like we have all been hurt. And that is so profound because it's that universal pain, it's that universal suffering that makes us all united. Oh my God. You have beautiful dogs. You have beautiful dogs.
Hey,
Yeah.
I just need to cool off a little bit.
So pretty. Do you see that? Beautiful dogs. Okay. I'm running out of battery. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment down below, share your stories. I love you guys.